on March 11, 2005, I woke up. It was like I felt every painful moment in my life that I didn't deal with, that I didn't address, that I didn't think mattered to me, I felt in one morning.
Some of my friends and family came to visit me, and I remember the look on their face. They were horrified. If I do this, the pain don't leave, it just transfers to them.
I look at those pill bottles piling up, and then you question everything. Am I as tough as I thought I was? I guess I wasn't really tough. I guess it was just all an illusion. I guess it was just all in my head.
There's no one on this planet who doesn't know what it's like to hurt, what it's like to feel, what it's like to cry, what it's like to think you are absolutely broken. Everyone knows those kind of thoughts.
I go through that dark place, but I don't stay there. I was never supposed to live in there. We're supposed to go through the dark places, and I think that, when they say the light at the end of the tunnel, the light is not an illusion, the tunnel is.
I was always tired. You heard me say, I'm tired. But now I'm determined, when I die, I'm not going to die tired. I'm going to die empty.
I was dreaming. I was really dreaming. For the first time in my life, I was learning to visualize my future instead of remember my past.
Anyone can be broken, but this is the most important thing. Anyone can live. Anyone can find hope.
Prayers and condolences to those who have family members or friends who lost their life to suicide. If this is you and you're contemplating suicide, I encourage you to reach out. There are people out there willing to talk to you. There's a suicide prevention line. The number is 988. Please reach out.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Life's beating on you like the 12th round of a championship bout. Come on in and let's talk about it. On this podcast, we welcome all positivity and we stand on self-reflection and improvement. So hit the lights so we can get our shine on. You're now tuned into the Lights Please podcast. Welcome back to the pod. It's your boy Kirk. If you wake up and you're listening, then you are winning. The term YOLO seems like a pointless moniker until someone loses their life and you realize how fast life can come and go. Oh, how much do we take life for granted? But there's two sides to every coin. We get a redo every day in life we wake up. We either choose to squander it and hope we get another chance tomorrow, or we make the best of the day we're given. On this episode, we're going to focus on mental health. I have no idea how many of us are suffering from mental illness in silence. Well, no more. In this season of life, I'm pushing myself to become more emotionally open, and I hope I can encourage you all to do the same. But before we can get into it, we have to push some feet. This is Pushing P, where you can get all of your daily fixes for positivity, where we are pushing positivity out into the world, one affirmation at a time. So today we have you hold the keys to the doors you need to open. We oftentimes sit back and wait for opportunities and miracles to happen, but we don't know that we all can open our own doors. The doors may be different for everybody, but it's your door. So let's get into it. We oftentimes pretend, especially in the Black community, that mental illness is not a real thing. We just say that, oh, he's acting crazy, or you need to get that devil man out of you. But in actuality, once you understand that these illnesses are chemical imbalances and that person has no control over anything pretty much, and if you're not properly informed, then you don't know these things are even going on. For one, as a community, or as just human beings in general, but I'm gonna just talk to my Black community for a minute, because this is something I personally had to deal with, and personally not still dealing with, but it's the residual effects is very prevalent in my adult life. So we have to understand that mental illnesses are a real thing, and we have to understand what those mental illnesses are. You have those, it's so many mental illnesses. It's like you have anxiety disorder, you have behavioral and emotional disorder, you have bipolar disorder, you have depression, you have disassociation disorder, you have eating disorders, you have OCD, you have paranoia, you have PTSD, you got schizophrenia. It's a lot of things people can be dealing with, but in the Black community, we seem to have this trope of just calling people crazy, or not really I don't want to say that we just call people crazy just because. It's just we don't understand what the person is going through, and the person doesn't know what he or she is going through also, because like I said, it's hard to control emotions. It's a literal chemical imbalance in your brain, and you don't really understand what you're doing if you're ill-informed about it. If a child sleeps unusual, or just becomes more and more socially distanced, or not eating, that child doesn't understand what depression is and how it affects the body. If a child is very loud and very moody, and that child don't understand what bipolar is, or nor can he or she control it. I'm sure many of us have dealt with this in some form or way, but we all found a way to cope with it, whether it be healthy or unhealthy. Our whole emotional intelligence is based on our understanding of the mental process. If you know you are bipolar, then you can get meds, and you can warn people the type of illness that you have, so they won't be so caught off guard. And basically, the more informed that you are about a subject, the better you can be prepared, and the better you are to handle it the right way. If you don't know your child or friend is dealing with depression, then you don't know how to approach them. You just notice that they're acting different, and you know what we say nowadays, oh, he or she moving funny. In reality, you don't really know what kind of battle that person is fighting in their head. Oftentimes, we really don't know what's wrong with us, but we are not free to talk about them openly without judgment or just lack of empathy. We don't have the funds to afford a therapist, and if we do get a therapist, we get shamed for seeing one. This is a cultural trend that must die. There are many stories of how the rich and famous are the most depressed, or how children are being bullied into depression because of the disorder or other mental illnesses they have. All roads lead to the same destruction of family, destruction of community, which is supposed to be the gathering of like-minded people to help others out. That's what community means. But I digress. And it overall leads to the destruction of our people. So I did my due diligence and researched on the topic, and what I found was very, very alarming. I'm gonna throw some numbers out here at y'all. So in the past year, about 50,000-ish people, there's 49,449. We're gonna round it up to 50,000. 50,000 people have committed suicide. And in that breakdown, they have men and women ages 10 to 25, 25 to 44, and 44 to 65. And in that breakdown, the most alarming stat that I seen was out of the 49,000 people that committed suicide, 39,000 of those were men. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. 39,000 out of 49,000 were men. We touched on this subject a little bit on my last episode. The amount of anguish and pain a man carries around with him every day is astonishing. You ever want to know a man? Just sit down and ask him how he is feeling truthfully. Men don't get the same grace and liberty to speak emotionally, and we just get called too sassy, or we're not a real man, or we, you know what I'm saying? Because, real men just able to take every blow life throws at them and just keep going. Stress on top of stress on top of stress on top of stress. Stress is the number one killer amongst men. And I know there's a we hate men trend going on, but I feel as though if every man were to die today, the world will fall flat. It will fall clean apart. And I'm gonna just say this: men are very simple. You can tell a man that he's doing a good job, and that will turn his whole day upside down. Just knowing that people want to be around is the simplest thing anybody can give. Just giving the acknowledgement of their existence, because otherwise the idea of not being worth existing lingers and lingers and lingers until. So I know as men, we are asked to bear many burdens, including our own, and keep all the residual effects inside. Now, this is where I'm going to section off so I can talk about me personally and my personal experience with the mental illnesses that I deal with. Also, before we get into that, I want to say this. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and now that I had the chance to do an episode on it, I want to address this, because I feel like this is also one of the things in the Black community that we also need to stop doing. For the Christians out there who think just like you can pray away your child's illness or pray away all the ailments and stuff of life without action, you are delusional. And I want to say that in the nicest way. Every prayer requires action. If you ask God to take away this nicotine spirit that you can't stop smoking cigarettes, but you ask God, hey God, can you please help me stop smoking cigarettes? And then immediately turn around and go outside and chain smoke a whole pack of cigarettes, then you just wasted the prayer. You need to ask God for something and then supplement that by doing something to saying, hey, I want to help myself first, and I need you as just my spiritual guide so we can stop this together. So here's a question that I often have to ask myself a lot, especially now I'm trying to be more emotionally available, emotionally open about things that are bothering me. So I have to ask myself, it's a simple question. You have to say, hey, how are you? Really just stop and ask yourself, how are you truly? So as a member of the Strong Friend, Strong Family Member community, I know we are going to say that we are fine and everything is okay. But if we actually unpack what's really like on our mind, then we'll find that there's some stuff in there that either shouldn't be there, or there's some stuff in there that you didn't know that was in there, and we're talking about in your mind. I've never seen a therapist or anything, so everything I'm saying comes from just my learned experiences and me doing my due diligence and trying to cope with my emotional trauma and find out things about me that I would say I per se didn't learn growing up, or I didn't know that was a thing, So we had a lot of emotions and a lot of our traumas, and that really affects our everyday lives unconsciously. We get so used to burying all the hurt, and we don't know really how to explain our hurt or ourselves to other people. Oftentimes you don't feel as though you're important enough, or your emotions aren't important enough to share. So we get stuck in these ruts where we like, I want to talk to somebody, but I don't want nobody to judge me, or I want to know what's wrong with me, but I want to talk about it, but I don't want to be called crazy. Yeah. So to this day, I still don't know what exactly like type of mental illnesses that I have. The only one I can probably just diagnose is just depression. Everybody can diagnose depression because well, I ain't gonna say everybody, but you know the simple signs of somebody being depressed. And I'm usually more of a happy-go-lucky person. I don't really talk to people about emotional things or things that are bothering me. So everybody thinks I'm super happy all the time. I'm super uppity, not uppity, but super. Let me see. I appears though that I'm always happy, and that's what I want to appear to the masses because I don't want to. I ain't gonna say I don't want to share what's going on with me. I just don't feel as though people actually care enough to care about what's going on with me, pretty much, if that makes any sense. Also, me being one of those friends who everybody confides and shares their emotional burdens and all their things that they're going on with them with me, I have to, dim my light sometimes to let other people shine. So I have to put my feelings on the back burner for others, and not saying that I don't do it purposefully, but I know I've just become that family member, that friend that everybody just like, that friend that you can always go to and talk and they give good advice, or just a friend they'll just listen to you. I'm that friend. So me being that for other people, I don't really have that type of relationship with anybody where I felt, I ain't gonna say I'm gonna say then I didn't really have that type of relationship with anybody where I felt comfortable enough sharing what I thought was wrong with me. But now I do. I have a nice, good support system where I know I can talk to my grandma about anything. I know I can talk to my mom about anything. I know I can talk to my wife about anything. But before those opportunities presented themselves, I would just harbor everything on my own and take on my own burdens and everybody else's burdens also. So I was just willy-nilly out here. If you truly know me, then you know that I am a bit of a distant person. I try to keep people at a arm's length. It's only because of how I've grown to not enjoy being alone, but I have trained my mind to be okay with being alone. And this idea sometimes pop in my head that nobody wants to talk to me or nobody wants to be around me, and things of that nature. But it's a self-created idea that I did as a self-defense mechanism. Whenever I would be bullied, I just disassociate myself with people. I remove myself from the situation. So that trickled over into my adult life, where if I felt like I'm not needed in any way, or if I'm not useful in any way, I'm just going to slowly remove myself from the situation. So, and that itself in this idea is a dangerous ideology, because if you gather everything that entails, and then you got that idea in your brain, and then you tell yourself that you are useless and your existence doesn't matter, and then that's how suicide or the thoughts of suicide starts accruing in the mind, as it did for me. So being a person who attempted suicide, I didn't really understand the effects of depression on the person. I didn't really understand to be honest, I didn't even understand how to even just commit suicide. Like, I didn't know there was like a million different ways you can commit suicide. I was just thought that if you just walk onto a random highway one night on a busy road, somebody may just hit you, and then you can just be off that way. So I'm gonna get into what really drove me to even attempt suicide, and what it was really in the process of being bullied. I got used to being bullied because the fat kid always get bullied, and we always the butt of people jokes and stuff. So I had gotten used to it, and every day it was an ongoing thing every day, and me using my disassociation from everybody, that I thought I could be so distant from people that people just forget about me and they wouldn't even bother me. So using the same side, using the different sides of the same coin, I distanced myself so much from everybody that I thought people actually did forget about me. And it was one of those, if I was sitting at a lunch table, that I would perceive that everybody thought I was a ghost or something. Like I didn't, like I wasn't there. So I was like, well, dang, if nobody noticed me, if I could just walk around and nobody noticed me this week, because basically I was kind of just doing that as a cry for help. Usually when somebody distances themselves and they become standoffish, they looking for some type of acknowledgement of their existence, and that was part of the reason why I started doing that. And the fact that nobody, whenever I did that, nobody ever like everybody did believe that I was invisible and things of that nature. And I started creating this idea in my head, like, dang, if I just randomly disappeared one day, nobody would actually care. And that idea trickled down over several months in my head, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna just disappear tonight, and nobody would ever care. And that night, I sat on the porch, as I do sometimes, because I go outside and sit on my porch and I write. And sometimes I look up to the moon, and I'll get my tears out from the day. And that particular night, I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, if I would just lay out here in the road, somebody would eventually come run me over, and I could just go and get this over with. So I walked out into the street, and I laid there for about a good, I don't know how long I laid there, but I laid there with my eyes closed, just getting ready to die, pretty much. So the funny thing is, not one car because it was a two-way street, not one car passed by the entire time I laid there. Looking back on it, I can say that that's kind of a sign, like, hey, you attempted to, take your life, and you attempted to take your life in this manner, and nobody, like not one car, not one bike, not one person walked by or nothing. I was just laying there on an empty street at 11 o'clock at night. Then eventually I just got up, and I guess I got tired of waiting. I got up and I went back inside, and I never talked about it to anybody. And I really didn't share any ideas of suicide until I met my wife. And she always she wanted to create this safe space for me to share all my emotional woes and my traumas and things. And she was about the only person that I would be safe enough to share my woes with. And I thank her very much, because it has opened me up to be more emotionally intelligent about like what's going on with me. Like I said earlier, we really don't know what's going on with us sometimes, because it's just a chemical imbalance in our brain, and we don't understand what's really going on in the moment. So with that, having that safe space, it helps me. Like, I can go to my wife and talk about anything, and then she always gives some of the greatest advice. But sometimes she just sit there and listen, and she just because you can ask her yourself. If she asks me how I'm feeling, and I tell her how I'm actually feeling, it branches off to a different story all the time. Yes. And so I would just sit there and talk, and she would just sit there and listen. And sometimes that's all we need as people who suffer from anything. I'm gonna say from anything, any type of sadness, depression, mental illness, disorder. We just need somebody to just be there. Being there is half the battle most of the time. Dealing with depression for most of the better half of my life. And now that I understand what depression is and how it affects the body, that I know now that I've been dealing with depression for a long time. And I've slept a lot, and I've super distanced from people, and what they call a Debbie Downer. And I don't know, I just didn't see the optimism in life, pretty much. And when you're dealing with depression overrules I ain't gonna say all, but some of your good judgment. And when it gets that far, that's when the suicide thoughts creep into your mind. And this is where you need a person. And that's why I named this episode Who Can I Run To? Because besides prayer and supplication, besides God, because we need people that we could run to emotionally, to where we can share our thoughts. So somebody that won't make us feel crazy, somebody that'll sometimes just listen, or sometimes you just want to go to somebody and cry. I've done that several times. I've cried to people and I let people cry to me. And being that person and understanding that I was there for that person in that moment, that could have been the moment where somebody wasn't there and that person thinks like, okay, I'm not important enough to not even be around here. So just having that person that understands you on the emotional level and that you can be safe around emotionally, that also can help out with whatever you're dealing with. Like, I love my mom to death. I love my mom and my grandma to death. But I just never even thought to talk about this because, like I said, there's this trope in the black community where they would be like that, maybe this dude is crazy. Or maybe, you know what I'm saying, you maybe a child come up to you and say, hey, maybe I thought about killing myself. You take them into Pine Grove. And now because Pine Grove got a little bit of a negative connotation of just crazy people running around there. I wouldn't say that the child is crazy. The child just needs more emotional, I'm gonna say emotional safeguard. Because if you were able to think like, okay, well, why are you committing suicide? All right, you're depressed. What can we do to help your depression? And then that child tells you what's going on. And then now you're thinking like, oh, I haven't been doing this, or I haven't been doing that, or maybe I could do this to, you know what I'm saying? These are the things that was lacking when children or young adults actually do commit suicide, because they don't have that emotional safeguard. So many days where I had to come home from being bullied, and then I just have to, I ain't gonna say just have to hide my feelings, but I really just took them inside and just turned into another version of Kirk that everybody could enjoy. So there was many days where I would come home and I'm just not feeling it, or I'm not feeling my best, or I'm just depressed, or I'm just stressed. Because stress and depressed go kind of hand in hand. It could go hand in hand. But there are dozens of days where I just wanted to like, dang, I really want to disappear. But on those days where I felt the most emotionally like disfigured, that's where I put all my emotions into my writing. Whenever I discovered that I could be as angry, as sad, as happy, as whatever emotion I'm feeling that day, I can be as much as that I want in my writing, and nobody would ever know. So there's billions of, I ain't gonna say billions, but there's a lot of notebooks that I have. Probably everywhere, every house that I went to, I probably got a notebook full of stories or poems or whatever about whatever emotions I'm feeling that day. So that was my I ain't gonna say emotionally. That was my emotional outlet, to where I could write it down, and I can read back the emotion, and I can relay it to myself like, okay, this is Kirk, you are angry, or Kirk, you are sad, you know. And this is where I learned, this is one of my, it was one of my first coping mechanisms with my depression. So overall, whenever I read a story about somebody who commits suicide or who left a note behind, it's always the same 2 or 3 things that threw them over the edge. That life became so stressful that you just can't take it anymore. Or I'm going through so much pain right now that I don't ever want to continue going through life in this same pain again. So therefore, I believe that if I off myself, that it would ease my pain, or the notion that I miss a person so much that's gone now that I want to go be with them. And I'm gonna say this: a lot of times that we don't understand the residual effects of committing suicide. If I would have told my mom that I was going to commit suicide when I was little, or whenever I did attempt to commit suicide, and it was successful, then I don't know what would have happened to, or what kind of emotional state my family would be under if I just committed suicide, you know. So whenever, this is one thing to think about, if that's you out there and that you want to commit suicide, first you have to think of the selfish aspect of wanting to not be here anymore. You personally, you're not going to feel anything ever again, but you have to think of your children, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, and that leaves a long lasting impact on their lives. Like, oh, what could I have done differently? Or what could I have done to help? And it just leaves so much ambiguity behind why you actually committed suicide. And in reality, the reality of the situation is that you just couldn't take whatever situation that it was going on anymore. And this is where it helps to have those people that you can communicate to, whether it be a therapist, whether it be your coworker, whether it be anything, any avenue that you can share safely your emotions to, that could help you get out of that dark place. This is where you will want to have those type of people in your life. And a lot of times we can't find those type of people because, and on the same on the other side of the same coin, we have to start being those people that wants to, be there for people. And we have to stop lying and saying, if you need anything, call me. And if I call you, you don't answer the phone. Those are the simple things in life that will literally send somebody over the edge. Hey, I cannot deal with life right now. Can you help me out? And then you pick up the phone and you let that person talk. So being that the people with the mental illnesses need people to be more listeners and more people that are about action, of trying to actually help them, we also need to start understanding that about mental illnesses, and we need to start understanding when somebody is actually crying out for help instead of just being weird or being distant or being, or crazy, as some people say. We have to get into just being more about helping our fellow man out. There are suicide prevention hotlines. You can go on Facebook. There are suicide prevention groups you can be a part of. Or if you just want to talk to a random stranger, you can talk to me. You can find me on Facebook at Kirkland Killings. So if you just want somebody to talk to, I will always be there for anybody who wants to a person to just listen. Like, you don't even have to be somebody you know. I just want us to get better together. If you are dealing with any type of mental illness, I want you to know personally from the bottom of my heart that we all want you to be around. Us being around helps the world grow. I learned this a long time ago, that even the random process of making a baby, you got millions and millions of sperm that go to a specific type of egg. The egg grow, and then boom, there's you. So there, you made it out of 1 million trillion billions of possibilities of persons. You are here for a reason. You just have to discover your purpose. So everybody, let's just keep learning about mental illnesses. And if you know somebody who's struggling with mental illness, start paying more attention to the person. Because like I said, being there is about 90% of helping them out. And let's all come together as human beings and keep helping our fellow man and our fellow woman. But before we end the show for today, I have to hit you with the sweet sounds of Poetically, of course. Can I get some poetic snaps in the chat, please? Dear me, it's hard writing this because I don't know what would become of me. You see, the journey, the trail I blaze, it's the path I chose, no rules to obey. Like a samurai with no sensei, like a weary traveler crossing the bridge after bridge with no toll to pay. This path I walk, dark, confusing. One hand, I want to change the world for the better. On the other hand, my life on autopilot, just cruising. My mind sinking deeper into the darkness. The further down, the more the pressure. So I write this letter to a better me, a Kirk who's found his way, a me whose life, hopefully I didn't throw away. At this point of life, but that's just it. I see no point. Every day, more pain, more sadness for everyone to exploit. I drag a heavy burden. Smile bright, be the best, if only they knew what's behind my curtain. I just know I live life as nothing is for certain. Every day I live, the more I feel like I make things worsen. I write this to me. Hopefully, I found my why for living. Found the purpose in my heart, so I know a chance of life is worth giving. This pen grows heavier from the teardrops on my hand. The paper dampened. Time is like a glass half full of sand. To be worthy of living, to be loved as I am, to share pain, grief, and happiness, to learn to love myself, to not fail, to dream. That is what I hope to be. But if I don't, I hope someone finds this letter and understand that I couldn't succeed. The waves of pain finally destroyed who I was. No more can life woes terrorize. Now I lay me down to sleep, and I hope I awake in paradise. Love, Perky. Thank you all for listening. Keep letting your light shine. This your boy Kirk, and I'm out. Lights, please.